Chapter 5. Anna awoke to the sun pushing its way into her bedroom through tinted windows. Exhaustion crawled through her like an infection as she reached a hand up to touch her sore head. She lay in bed for a few minutes without moving, attempting to ease into the day. Endeavoring to clear her thoughts, she focused on her breathing and stared up at the ceiling. Her body needed her mind to be still, but she couldn't force it to play along. Her brain was working overtime, reliving the night before as a blur of emotions and sensations. She didn't remember the ride home or crawling into bed, except for a dim awareness that Daniel had been there. She smiled as she thought of him and turned over to his side of the bed. It was empty, which she found both unsurprising and disappointing. She had no idea what time it was, but it didn't much matter. Daniel had always been an early riser, whether he had to be or not, so it wasn't shocking for him to be up first. But just the same, she wanted to wrap her arms around him and feel his body heat. The smell of food drifted in through her nostrils, and though she wasn't hungry, the sensation served to get her blood flowing. She emitted a soft groan and climbed out of bed, rubbing her throbbing forehead. Peering down at her bedside table, she found a packet of medication, the bracelet MMD she wore when off duty, and the temporary data lens she'd gotten the night before. One of the nurses had provided her with the pills along with a limited prescription pattern to assemble more, and she took 2 now, swallowing them without water in the hope they'd make the ache stop. She put on the bracelet, slipped on some house shoes, pocketed the data lens, and made her way down the hallway into the kitchen. There she found Daniel and Jason, both sitting with plates of food in front of them, Daniel munching on a sandwich and Jason digging into a hamburger and fries. The meals were synthesized, of course, but they were serviceable replicas. When Jason saw her, relief spread across his face. "Mom, are you okay?" Anna gave him a weak smile. "Getting there." She patted over to Daniel, bent over and kissed him on the lips, applying pressure in spite of her weariness. She smiled as she pulled back and put her hand up to her forehead. "Don't tell me. I don't want to know how late it is." He chuckled. "This is lunch, so yeah, well, I feel like I could go back to sleep." "You should, Mom." She shrugged and admitted to herself the idea held some appeal. "Maybe." Daniel pointed to his sandwich. "Do you want to eat? I can synthesize something for you." She contemplated the plates of food and shook her head. No, not right now. It all looked quite unappealing, especially so soon after waking up. Coffee, on the other hand, sounded great. Walking over to their kitchen MMD, she instructed it to make her a cup. Once it was in hand, she took small sips and relished the flavor. The taste was rich and dark, awakening her senses despite the fact the caffeine hadn't yet touched her bloodstream. She recalled visiting the bean booth the previous day to meet Black Ice, feeling as if a lifetime had passed since then. She started as Jason's presence and the time of day suddenly registered with her. "No school today?" "Dad said I could skip." Daniel gave their son a corrective glare. "Not skip. Learn from home. You still have to do your work." Jason grinned. "Already done." "We'll see. You have a habit of missing assignments." He turned to Anna. "It was a long night, and Jason woke up worried about you. I figured we could all use a break. I took the day off as well." She nodded her agreement. She wasn't the only one under stress from last night's events, then changed the subject. "Has there been anything on the news?" Excitement lit up Jason's face. "Loads! It's been wild, Mom. I've never seen your face on the net before." "My face?" Daniel smiled. "Don't act so surprised. You saved the life of Savitri Shaw. Of course you are hero number 1 for the day, probably for the entire news cycle." Anna considered this, adjusting to the idea. Fame, 15 minutes or otherwise, was new for her. Not distasteful, just something she'd not thought about. Lisa was going to love it, though. Jason chattered on about the news reports. "No one knows what exactly happened. They're saying a suicide bomber attacked a councilwoman and you stopped him after he killed 7 people. But they're also saying he used a gun and no one understands how." Daniel continued where Jason left off. It's all anyone's talking about, the people being shot. The city has gone 7 years without a firearm killing until now. That statistic has been mentioned more than a few times. Anna sat down with her coffee and noticed that Jason was studying her with a degree of expectation. He wanted her to solve the mystery and explain what the reporters were missing. "I can't talk about the case, kiddo. I'm sure you would love to tell all your friends your inside info, but you're just going to have to speculate." Including Nevaeh. Daniel gave their son a knowing smirk. "Dad," Jason groaned, and Anna smiled at the pair. The three fell into silence, and as she sipped her coffee, Anna's headache began to diminish. It annoyed her then when a notification chime interrupted her progress toward becoming a normal, functioning adult. Pulling her data lens out of her pocket, she saw Jada's name. A little taken aback, given she'd been granted the day off, she put the device over her eyes and answered, "Hello, Director." She hoped the formality of using Jada's title would send a subtle hint. Jada received the message. Her tone was apologetic. "I'm sorry to bother you today. Things are moving fast, and I thought you'd want a heads up." Anna groaned, accepting she'd have to hit the ground running after all. Part of her had woken up believing that her respite wouldn't last, and as much as she'd tried to push that thought aside, reality came calling. "Okay, give me a second to find someplace quiet." She raised regretful eyebrows at Daniel, who smiled and waved at the hallway, indicating she should do what she needed to. She thanked him with a quick bob of her head, then made her way to the third bedroom of their apartment, Daniel's tinker room, messy with electronic components, physical books, and keyboards. She didn't come here often, but it was a good place to talk in private. "All right, what's going on?" "It's the director from Washington, Guerrero. She's been in the office since early this morning, and she hasn't been idle. She wants me to bring you back into the office today." Already agitated at taking the call, Anna flushed. "Seriously? Why? She understands I'm injured, right?" "She says she doesn't like unexplained events, and your service weapon working when other MMDs failed is unexplained." "Well, excuse me for surviving." Anna didn't try to hide her bitterness. "Guerrero doesn't have a great reputation for tact, and I'm finding that out firsthand. For my part, she's only been here a few hours and is already ordering my agents around. You aren't the only one she wants to talk to, but she's really zeroed in on your ability to resist Ben Jacobs' mod. I told her to give you a day, and we'll talk tomorrow." She grudgingly agreed, but Anna? "Yes?" "She's going to accuse you of having an unauthorized mod on your service weapon." Anna pushed out a sharp breath. She'd been afraid of this. "I didn't. She can check it." "She has. Or rather, we have. We examined your weapon, and it's clean." "So that's it then? There's no problem?" "Not for me, but for Guerrero there is. Agent Williams' weapon was disabled, and so were the MMDs held by Shaw's security personnel. That your staff was able to erect a barrier is best explained by you running some kind of protective mod against whatever Ben Jacobs had." Anna's anger rose. "What am I supposed to say? Should I apologize for being alive?" "Anna, she doesn't want an apology. She wants an answer." "And what about you? Aren't you curious why I'm talking on a data lens instead of lying in a morgue while a mortician tries to make my face presentable enough for a funeral?" The morbid thought was more than Anna intended, but she'd run out of the patience required to pull punches. Jada sighed and fell into a brief silence. When she spoke again, her voice was apologetic. "Of course. I'm glad you survived. We all are. You're the reason Shaw and her husband didn't die. And I'm not concerned about mods. But Guerrero is different, and you're going to have to come up with an answer which satisfies her. As I said, she's running the office right now, so I can't stop her from pursuing this." "Okay." Anna let the single word stand alone, and Jada pushed. "She's talking about suspending you." "Suspending me?" The idea punched Anna in the gut. Sitting at home while others chased down Naomi was unthinkable. She'd always been concerned about the repercussions of using unauthorized mods, but Jada was the type of boss who understood that the rules couldn't keep up with the streets. If she ever cracked down on Anna's methods, Anna expected the punishment to be mild, a slap on the wrist, but this new face from Washington changed things. And that was Jada's point. Guerrero outranks me. If she finds a way to prove you had unauthorized mods, I can't stop her. It's our job, yours and mine, to track down illegal mods, not to use them. Does Jada know about my mods? Anna had long suspected she might, looking the other way for the sake of deniability while Anna achieved results that benefited both the agency and the city. Jada's language now supported this theory. She hadn't said, if you had mods, but rather, if she proves you had mods. Anna leaned into the ambiguity. If I used an unapproved mod, I'd have done it for the safety of others. Context matters. It does, but Guerrero's a Washington bureaucrat through and through. She doesn't understand the dangers my agents face on a daily basis. You can start by telling her criminals try to blow us up with bombs. She must have missed that memo. Hearing her own acerbic tone, Anna paused for a moment to calm herself. When she spoke again, she hoped the edge in her voice was gone, or at least dulled. I know this isn't your fault, Jada. I'm sorry to hit you with it today while you're still recovering, but I didn't want you to be ambushed when you came back to the office. Of course. Thank you. I'm doing my best here, and it isn't an easy situation. Keep resting and let your mind background this. Go visit your partner. I'm sure she'd love to see you. We'll figure something out in the morning. Okay, I will. Anna ended the conversation and surveyed Daniel's tinker room, considering Jada's words. Her mods violated the letter of the law, but not the spirit, and it sounded like Guerrero didn't distinguish between the two. She thought about Lisa, sitting in the hospital, healing from her gunshot wound, and a sudden need to talk to her pinched her conscience. If anyone deserved the truth, Lisa did. Before returning to the kitchen, she stopped by her bedroom and changed into real clothes. When she entered, dressed to go out, Daniel stood up to meet her, frowning. Is everything all right? She sighed. I don't know. We'll see. She indicated Jason. Can't talk in front of this one. Jason managed to grin. My lips are sealed. But she saw through the expression to his worry. Her stress must be showing. Feeling sympathy, she reached out and tousled his hair. I'm sorry. It's tough having a mom with secrets. He didn't lose his smile. I'm used to it. She returned her attention to Daniel. I'm going out to visit Lisa at Houston General. Do you want me to come with you? No, Lisa's my partner, and there are some things we have to discuss alone. I need to bring her up to speed about some agency stuff. Jason directed a mischievous look at his father. See, Dad, it's not only me. She cuts both of us out. Daniel remained serious and nodded at Anna. I understand. I'll stay here and work out some dinner. His expression grew lighter, and he gestured at the plates on the table. How about just for tonight I'll pick up something authentic, splurge a little. Jason's eyes brightened. I could go for that. Anna could too. That sounds wonderful. She bent over and kissed her son on the top of his head. I love you, kiddo. I love you too, Mom. She turned to peck Daniel on the cheek. I won't be too long. Take whatever time you need. She left the apartment and made her way to the building's transport dock, her mind flooded with anxiety. Her unapproved mods had always been a risk, but she'd been careful and discreet, even keeping their existence a secret from her partners. It was true Jada might have guessed, but if she did, she'd never said anything. Now it was coming out in a way Anna couldn't control. What would the fallout be? She didn't know what would happen next. When Anna arrived at Lisa's hospital room, she found her partner more recovered than she'd expected. Lisa was sitting up in her bed watching a movie as sunlight from a soon-to-be fading winter sun spilled into the sterile and spacious room. An extravagant bouquet of flowers sat on the bedside table, still fresh. Anna had no doubt that something that expensive must have come from Lisa's parents. Lisa touched her data lens to pause the movie and produced a wide smile. Anna, it's good to see you. Anna grinned back and walked up beside the bed, reaching out to brush her partner's hair back away from her eyes. "You're recovering well." Lisa waved her hand dismissively. They should have let me go this morning. I guess they're playing it safe. The bullet missed the important bits." "Thank heavens for that. When I left you last night, it was—" Lisa cut her off. "The right thing to do. I was all right." She smirked. "I'm just irritated that you got to have all the fun." Anna pursed her lips. Fun isn't the word I'd use. 7 people died, 3 of them right in front of me." "You're right. I'm sorry, Anna." A sober expression had replaced Lisa's glib smile, and Anna realized she'd spoken more harshly than she'd meant. "I understand how it must have felt being left behind, and I didn't like going in alone." She didn't add that if Lisa had been with her, she might have suffered the same fate as the others. She nodded at the flowers. "Your family came to visit?" "Yes, Mom and Dad came by earlier, and then my sister around lunchtime." "I'm glad. It's wonderful you have family here in town that can be here for you." Anna glanced at an air chair sitting in a corner. "Can you walk?" Lisa grimaced. "It's painful. For now, I prefer to float." Anna noted that Lisa's bravado about going home this morning might have been overstated. "Let me take you for a ride then, get you out of this stuffy room." "I'll take you up on that for sure. Sunlight and fresh air sounds great." Using her bracelet, Anna motioned the air chair over to the bed. As a visitor, the receptionist had granted her limited MMD access to hospital-tagged objects. Lisa transferred herself over to the floating chair with little trouble. Continuing to steer with her bracelet, Anna guided Lisa out of the room and down the hall, the IV stand rolling along beside them. They moved past the nurse's station and out onto an open-air patio. Outside, the crisp air nipped at Anna's skin, offset somewhat by the warmth of sunlight beaming down from the sky. Lisa lifted her chin up. "Oh, this feels good." They sat for a few minutes without speaking, and then Lisa asked the question Anna knew was coming. "How did you do it? After I got shot, I was so worried. I didn't understand why my staff malfunctioned, but the more I've watched the news feeds, the more I think it didn't malfunction at all." "It didn't. Ben disabled your weapon and all the others at Shaw's apartment. My weapon had protection." Lisa peered at her, brow furrowed. "How? In what way?" Anna took a deep breath. Now that it came to it, the words weren't easy. "Oh, I have mods, Lisa. I've been using them for years." Lisa searched Anna's eyes, her mouth doing the upward turned thing it did when she thought a situation was funny, but only she got the joke. "I mean, yeah, of course." Anna couldn't help but smile. "You knew?" "Sure. I'm your partner. You think I didn't recognize something was going on whenever you insisted on following up leads alone, or how no one ever found anything wrong with a crime scene we'd scuffed up a little? You're subtle, but Anna, I'm not an idiot." Anna managed a slight chuckle. "I must have overestimated my cleverness. Carrie didn't know." If that's true, she ignored the clues out of self-preservation. Willful ignorance. Anna hadn't given this much consideration before, but now that Lisa said it, she thought it was right. Anna had worked with her former partner far longer than Lisa, and looking back, the different dynamics at play were obvious. Carrie was unquestioningly loyal, but wouldn't want to be personally involved in anything untoward, while Lisa was perfectly at home taking liberty with the rules. It made sense that Anna had recently started using her mods more brazenly, even if she hadn't realized why. It felt more natural around Lisa. Lisa's inquisitive tone snapped Anna back to the present. "We're getting off point. You had mods, but one specifically for this? How did you accomplish that? We didn't know anything about what Ben and Naomi were running before we stepped into their apartment." "I didn't, but my modder did. Kind of. Look, the modder who does my service weapon, we've worked together ever since my first few years with the agency. We have a trust built up, and whatever mods need to be installed, get installed. I don't always know all the details." "Well," Lisa hesitated, "I don't think I'd have enough faith to let someone put code on my stuff I didn't understand, but I suppose I can't argue with the results." She sighed. Oh, you really are something else, though. You always want to control everything. Why not this? Anna shrugged. I'm not a programmer. If I were, I'd do my own mods, but I'm not, and my modder does a better job than me figuring out what works and what doesn't. She paused for a beat and then continued. I want to introduce you to, and it will all make more sense. But before that, I want to relay what Jada told me this morning. Lisa raised her eyebrows. What do you mean? Anna recounted the conversation, explaining about Guerrero's attitude toward the field office and herself in particular. Lisa groaned. Oh, isn't it just like Washington to make things more difficult than necessary? Exactly. Given that, it's critical to keep what you're about to hear close to the vest. She nodded. Anna scanned the patio to make sure they were alone. I've set up a call for us. I want to introduce you to my modder, and we should be safe to do it from here, safer than your room. She opened a connection, manually entering in the link for someone not on her contact list. Seconds later, a robotic voice started speaking. Hello, Anna. The mid-pitched electric voice sounded neither male nor female and contained no inflection. The encryption even masked the speaker's cadence, making identification impossible by all but the most sophisticated AI programs. Anna didn't know if Simon could break it. Probably so. Hello, I have Lisa, my partner, on the call with us. I want to talk about last night. Understood. I survived the blast because of a mod you put on my staff. Can you explain that? What it is and why you decided to put it on my service weapon? 4 months ago, I found a security vulnerability in the agency code for your staff. I developed a protective mod and installed it to prevent the vulnerability from being exploited at the time. I thought the agency left the hole open due to an oversight, a bug in the code. The attacker last night must have used a mod which took advantage of the vulnerability, allowing him to disable agency MMDs. The mod I installed on your device prevented this. Lisa's countenance darkened. If you found an exploit, why only protect Anna? What about the rest of us? I am sorry, Lisa. I thought no one would know about the vulnerability to exploit it, and that the chances of someone using it were low. I did not mention it to Anna because of its obscurity, only putting protection in place as a matter of course of habit. I wish I had brought it to the agency's attention, but that would have been difficult to do without exposing myself. Anna studied her partner. The robotic nature of the voice flattened the apology, and indeed, Lisa didn't appear happy. She made a gentle appeal. How could my modder have alerted the agency without being found out? Would it have been worth it if no one else knew the threat existed? Lisa considered this. No. Her tone suggested she understood, but wasn't happy. It tracks, but I might have died. I am sorry, Lisa. In the future, I will provide you with all of the updates I give Anna. This will not happen again. How will you do that? From what Anna said about this Guerrero, she'll be watching to catch us with unauthorized mods. Anna shook her head. I'm not giving up on mods yet, not while we're facing a dangerous enemy like Naomi. We need every edge available. Guerrero and Jada may inspect our agency devices, but we can keep those vanilla while running modded weapons in the field. I'm sure my modder would have no issue bringing civilian models up to our normal capabilities. Yes, I can do that. This idea appeared to calm Lisa. She tapped her chin with a thoughtful finger. I like it. You can pick up a pair of commercial weapons and let me have one with all the bells and whistles. She frowned, her eyes shifting as a new thought occurred to her. This vulnerability, was it accidental? Or was it... Her voice trailed off. My theory is that someone hacked the government codebase and deliberately introduced a vulnerability that would affect both agency weapons and Shaw's security. Anna agreed. It was a setup for last night. Whoever was behind it didn't want interference from the agency if we caught wind of their plans. What concerns me is this all implies an organization, not Ben and Naomi working alone. Lisa's eyes widened. Anna, do you remember talking to me about the sting on those stolen MMDs and how it went bad at the last minute? I remember. You implied there's someone dirty at the agency. Ah, it makes even more sense now. It does. I think we must consider that possibility, but it's hard to think of who that could be. Everyone we work with is like family. She turned her attention to the voice. I think we've gotten what we need from you. I'll require some help with the new staffs, but I can contact you later about that. Of course, Anna. I will be ready. Anna severed the connection. Well, that's my mater, sort of. Lisa shot her a dubious look. I'm not sure I like her, if I'm honest. Do you think she's trustworthy? Anna made a face. Absolutely. I wouldn't be standing here otherwise. I only survived because of that mod. Maybe, but did you notice that when you started talking to her, she didn't ask after you? You were nearly killed last night, and she was all business. Something is off. Anna thought back to the conversation. Nothing seemed off that she could remember. It's the way we work together, how we are, and the voice encryption makes it all feel less personal. I suppose. Lisa didn't sound convinced. Anyway, I'm going back into the office tomorrow, and I don't know what to expect. If you believe Jada, Guerrero's going to suspend me. I don't think she has the evidence to justify it since my staff is clean, but I can't rule it out. The main thing is, let's do what we can to find out more about Naomi and Ben. I only assume they're part of something bigger. Terrorists. The word hung in the air. There were many groups who disliked the government and wanted to cause trouble, but none in recent memory had the capabilities to turn their hostility into action. The power to inject vulnerabilities into MMD code and then exploit it was frightening in a world where everyone trusted MMDs to protect them. Daylight began to fade, and Anna knew it was time to leave. Let me get you back to your room. She began moving the air chair again, pulling both it and Lisa toward the patio doorway. I hope you'll be out of here soon, but I'd say to take your time before going back to the office. It's going to be rough there for a bit. I'll try not to push it. I am tired, but I'm also ready to be back in action. Lisa turned her face up toward Anna's, fire in her eyes. I've never been shot, never expected to be shot. These people must go down. They will. We'll figure this out and nail them to the wall. Lisa went silent, and Anna closed her eyes, praying her words weren't empty. When she called for a bus to leave the hospital, Anna put in a destination a few blocks away from a security supplies store she sometimes used. She didn't think it was unreasonable to take some measure of precaution and cover her tracks. The store sold various private security MMD patterns and physical devices. The latter couldn't be assembled by MMDs because either they required rare materials or their assembly was prohibited for regulatory reasons. Her aim was to purchase 2 new staffs and bring them to her modder. It wasn't lost on her that modding a civilian MMD was one step further outside agency lines, moving beyond running unauthorized mods to something more drastic, and this time Lisa was in on it. But what else were they supposed to do? They were already playing catch-up to Naomi's tech, even before Washington had sent someone to clamp down on her. Her anger bubbled up again with the recognition she was fighting 2 battles now, one against Naomi, the other against her own agency.